Welcome. These community coaching sessions are funded by Ideas Human Sciences Board of Directors. The topics are determined by Kristen Malik, who we call Dr. K, based on what comes up in these sessions. In the last session, we talked a little bit about the different types of pages that exist in LinkedIn, but there was still some confusion and curiosity about them. So that's what we're going to cover today. So I'll also say that Kristen is offering some one-on-one coaching opportunities. You can reach out to me, Catherine Harth, if you need the link to fill out the form to sign up to be one of those. We still have lots of spots open if you'd like some one-on-one time with Dr. K. But with that, I'll hand it over to Dr. K for our mini lesson for today.
Awesome. Thanks, Catherine. So, as a review, just a very slight overview for people who are watching this online, I talked like 1,000-foot overview at the February Idea Conference on LinkedIn. And then this is like a 6-part series where the first part we talked about the algorithm and how that algorithm impacted personal pages, company pages, all of those. And then I asked at the end of that session what people really needed to hear about next that they were struggling with or needed clarity on. And so today we're talking about the difference between the pages. And then at the end of this session, I'll ask what you guys want to talk about next. So make sure you're thinking through that as well. With that being said, I want to share one slide from the February conference because it kind of gives a great overview for today, where today we're talking about groups versus pages, company pages, personal pages, spotlight pages. And I had one like really good slide. And if you weren't there in February, I want to make sure you see it. And so I'm going to share that screen here. Make sure the green boxes are on the right screen here. Can you see like a PowerPoint that's like definitely not in share mode? Is that
Yes,
good? Yes.
yes,
Okay,
we've
good.
got it.
It's definitely not supposed to be in share mode. So that's great. So we talked through a lot of different things at this February conference. Why do people use LinkedIn and optimizing your personal profile and things like that? We started talking about LinkedIn pages versus groups, and we're going to talk about that a lot today. So LinkedIn pages, what's the purpose? Official profile for the business and institution. Who manages it? We manage it. The company, the school, the nonprofit, the brand. Idea, your university, your department, you are the people who manage pages. And it's really best for that brand awareness, marketing, group postings, and engagement. If you tend to be more on a Facebook level and not like a LinkedIn level, this is very similar to Facebook pages where you post content and you're trying to get engagement through the comments, but we are the only ones that have the authority to post the content, right? So everything comes from us. Now, LinkedIn groups, which are similar to Facebook community groups, they're structured very similarly. LinkedIn groups are really for community and discussion. They are used for community building. So these can be private or they can be public. They can be, if people request to join, it's an automatic acceptance, or people can be vetted. So there's a lot of options in how you set up your group. And these are private or public spaces for people to network, to share knowledge, to build community. Now, oftentimes you do have a community manager, which is a very fancy term for someone that just makes sure that you're checking in once a week, maybe posting something once a week, making sure you're not getting spam or people are posting things that you don't really necessarily want tied to your brand. But it's really meant to be community led. And so for LinkedIn groups, it's not the company that posts, it's individuals that post. So if the 5 of us were in a group right now, when we post within that group, it would have your name tied to it. So Kyle's name would be on it, Celia's name would be on it, Catherine, Kristen, right? Ashley, all of our names would be on it. And we're posting within a group. So similar to a Facebook group, if you've been part of those. But we're all responsible. We're co-creating the content and the culture together. So it's really great to have alumni, or I'll say like current students and alumni for here, because then they can share job postings or internship postings or special events or things that you want to make sure that you know about, and they get to share with each other. So it's not just you having to get all of that information and then sharing it out with other people. So that's a big thing. LinkedIn page, you're like very controlling of it's, you're posting it as the brand. So like if Kyle posts as the LinkedIn page for like his department, it doesn't actually say Kyle anywhere on it, right? It just has the program name. But in LinkedIn groups, it is your name that's affiliated with it. So think through that. So pages are for broadcasting, they're for brand awareness. They're like, hey, look at these cool things that we're doing. And groups are for engagement and conversation, right? And because of that, there's many times that companies will have both, right? So I have a page that I share out that is for it's event related. So we post out on our page all of the events that we're hosting. Like we host a monthly discussion group, we host a couple pop-ups. There are things that are hosted by my group. And then we have an actual group where anybody can post. They do get a little self-promotional, right? Depending on who's in your group. They can be like, look at this cool thing I'm doing, or this is a paid opportunity that I'm hosting, or I'm doing an event, especially if it's current students, right? I'm hosting this event, or my sorority or fraternity, or, my grad club fundraiser or whatever. We're hosting this event and we want you to buy a ticket. So it can be anything you want it to be, right? Groups are really important for online communities to build kind of that community spirit, because there's a name tied to it. You can click through. Like for my master's, my MBA program, we had a group and I could like click through to be like, oh my gosh, that was a really interesting thing they just posted. And I can click on their name and go to their profile and be like, oh wow, they live in Atlanta and they do this and this and this, and that's really cool. So I kind of can then steer the conversation for that, right? So being able to link through. We also briefly talked about the type of content that you would post on each and who would do it in February's conference. And I'm assuming that that's probably going to be what the next one or two, depending, sessions is about, is how to content stack, how to competency, like how to figure out who's doing what and who originates the post. I'm assuming one of the six is going to be about that, though we're not going to cover that specifically today. So any questions at this point? I'm going to stop sharing so then I can switch to a different screen. Any at this point? Because they do have very distinct purposes, right? Which is just important to realize. So, all right. I do have my LinkedIn pulled up as well, so we can switch over there. Different screen. Okay. So again, only a couple slides for this, and then we will open it up for questions. And we can ask questions very specifically about each of your programs. What would I recommend? Like, how can we build engagement or build numbers or recruitment or whatever that looks like, right? So I always put this type of thing on the slide in case you're passing the video along to other people. So if it's out of context, why this matters, if you have a slide deck, if you're passing it around, right? It's really, really important for LinkedIn, especially in higher education right now, and definitely for anybody doing grad programs. And we talked about that a little bit. So when we think about all the different things that LinkedIn has to offer, because it has a lot to offer, I'm a very visual person. And so I like to think of it, if I'm on site at a conference, they're kind of like different tables and round tables, right? So LinkedIn has this option over here, it has this option over here, and this option over here, and this option over here, but they're all part of the same family, right? All part of the same thing. So we've got profiles, pages, groups. They all serve a unique role. And especially when it comes to the content generation, who's posting what, how do you stack it, how do you maximize your exposure, and also how you can do it efficiently, right? None of us have like tons of extra time to be able to go and do stuff. So how can we do it efficiently for the maximum output and impact, right? And so that's really kind of why we're talking about understanding it. So we talked about personal pages last time. I'm not going to go super into it again, but the personal page is your name, your brand, and your post, right? So it's got all of those things. And then we have the company pages. So company page, so I got idea up here. So your company page, which when we say company, that's what LinkedIn calls it, right? So LinkedIn calls it a company page. This would be your departmental page, right? So if you are part of a department that has multiple programs, multiple majors, this company page is your department, right? Then you could do showcase pages or groups for your program. Now, what I like that IDEA has done here is that IDEA has a page, and then they've got these affiliated showcase pages for all their different programs. And then you have to think, do I have my own university program page? Do I just use the IDEA program page? How does the IDEA program page and my, university's program page, how do they also stack in content? Who posts what? What does that look like? Right? Maybe I don't want a page. Maybe I only want a group, right? And then IDEA can link to the group on their page. There's so many different things you can do. It depends on what makes sense for your group. And that's why we offer these like kind of one-on-one coaches, because every single program is probably going to need something very specific and different. But it's important to know the whole ecosystem, right? You have to have a company page in order to have spotlight pages, because spotlight pages are owned by a company. Okay. So you can't just say, I want to do a showcase page, which is for like a specific program, and not have a company page. You can't do that. So the company page is important. That'd be kind of in your university saying like, I want to have a major that doesn't live within a department. Okay. It just doesn't work necessarily, right? So you have to live somewhere. You have to live in a department or a college or under the university or whatever. So that is the company page. And then the showcase page is like your program. Okay. And you can see all the things in here. We talked about company pages a little bit last week, so I don't want to repeat anything. Now, the spotlight pages are these sub pages under a company page. So when I was talking in February, we talked about how Microsoft has a company page, and then all of their suites of products have their own showcase page. Now, when we say showcase and we say spotlight, they're both the exact same thing. We call them spotlight pages, but LinkedIn kind of had spotlight as a page. And then I don't know why, wording, branding, whatever, you can see on the right that they label them as like showcase pages. It's the same thing, right? It's kind of like tomato, tomato. It's the same thing. But these showcase spotlight pages, that's why I use them interchangeably. They are for like a very specific program. So Microsoft has a showcase page for 365. They have a showcase page for, like Excel and for Outlook and for Teams, which we should all boycott, and OneDrive and other things, right? They have all these subpages. And so they're playing the algorithm. That's what they're doing. And we'll talk about that. So you have your company page and your spotlight pages. So then you have to figure out, is IDEA the company page that you want to have your spotlight and showcase pages under, right? Which means that IDEA owns them. And that's what they have right now. And this is great for sharing out for things on behalf of all, all of the universities that are participating in this program. And then what makes sense for my university to own, right? Because you're gonna have a portfolio for sure. Okay, these spotlight pages, the reason why they've become important, we talked about last week for the LinkedIn algorithm. The LinkedIn algorithm gives you these points per post, and then they give you points per account, right? They're the trustworthiness points, the validity points, and a part of that rubric that they're judging you on, LinkedIn is judging you on, is based on like consistency of your content. Right. So if I'm posting today about event planning, I'm posting tomorrow about LinkedIn, I'm posting the next day about my child, I'm posting the next day about like, speaking, and posting the next day about math, I'm going to have a low trust score because I have way too many target markets. Right. And so LinkedIn is like, I want to know that I can comfortably show your content to the most people because it's consistently about this umbrella topic for this target market, right? And that is why companies do these showcase spotlight pages, because they are different target markets. So me, Kristen, if I have 4 different areas that I like to work in and they're different target markets, right? I have marketing companies over here. I have higher education here. I've got these like consultants and coaches over here. I have, like metaphysical over here, or whatever I have. They're all very different target markets. I don't want to put them under the same account. I want to create separate pages for them because they are distinct target markets. And then my posts will be shown to more people. Okay. And then we have groups. And groups are, again, self-led. Think of these as the student groups, right? So you have your company page, which is your department. You have your showcase spotlight page, which is your program or major. Then you have LinkedIn groups, which are like your student groups, they're content groups. And then you have personal pages, which are for individual people. That's how they all work together. Hey, LinkedIn groups, we already talked about design for community engagement and community development. The thought is that they're going to run themselves, but you really do kind of need a community manager to get them up and running and to just check in on them from once in a while, or else they can become stagnant and nobody posts in them anymore. Okay. And then when to use each. Again, you guys will all get a copy of this. You can take screenshots and whatever you want to do. This is kind of how they all work together. And look, Kyle, I put your name on here. Right, so since you requested this topic, your personal page, right, real world example, your limitations post is self only, or you're giving someone else your personal username and password in connection to your people, right? So one person. And then company spotlight group, we just talked about that, right? But strengths are listed there, company page, your credibility, spotlight would be dedicated branding and messaging for that one group. And then your groups are really to build community, right? And so we have our purpose, strengths, and limitations, which we've talked about. I just love putting a side-by-side chart together. If you couldn't tell from my February PowerPoint I just shared, I love a good side-by-side chart, right? So when we talk about program decision making, what to do, number one thing I always do no matter what, whether it's an event, it's a meeting, it's an agenda, it's a social media, what is the purpose of it? Right? It's amazing how often we do things because we feel we have to do them without like clearly defining what is the purpose, right? I'll tell you, I was not the most popular person when I came to this university because I went to several meetings, and at the end of the meeting, I said, "What did we accomplish today?" And then I'd say, like, what is the purpose? And I will tell you, there are several groups that no longer meet every month because they didn't have answers for those, right? Which is great for my schedule. But, like, what is the purpose? What is the purpose of us being on LinkedIn? Is it to recruit? Then you know what pages you need to use. If it's to have more loyalty and trust within our current students, if it's to build the network, then you know what to use for that, right? But until you actually define the actual purpose of why you're on there, then you're going to be like, I need to do everything, or I don't know what to do. So this becomes a really important point, defining the purpose. And then once you have the purpose, then you have the goals, right? So is the priority awareness, recruitment, community interaction. Consider your resources for sure. We were just talking about that before we started recording. There are some that need a little bit of management, and there are some that don't, right? So just consider your resources. And when I say resources, it's never money on LinkedIn. It's just time, and time is money. But we're not talking like you need to sit on here 2 hours a day every day, right? You can preset a plan once a week and then have a student, a TA, a helper, for an hour a week, just log on like 10 minutes a day and make a post. You just need to pre-approve the posts, right? So you can reach your goals. Combination strategies, we're going to talk about that a lot in content stacking, how to maximize faculty who have these one-to-one connections with these students, and how you can learn which post to share, when to tag, what to do that. And then definitely understanding your posting constraints, and we talked about this in that algorithm last week. So if you didn't see the video from last week, make sure to go back and watch it, because there's some major things with the algorithms between personal and company pages. Even though your rubric is the same, the weight of how many people are shown your posts is different, right? So keeping that in mind. Good side. Common confusions is the name of who's posting, right? So we talked about that. If you're a company page, you're posting as the company. If you're a group, you're posting under your own name, right? Groups don't offer all the analytics that company pages and spotlights do. They do offer some, but it's not nearly as extensive because you're not necessarily tracking the same things. And so oftentimes you have a mixed portfolio, right? And then you just have to understand what to do with that. So when I'm talking to students and faculty who are trying to come up with a LinkedIn messaging campaign, and then they're like, well, we're going to do all social media. And they're like, well, I'm just going to make the same post on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. I'm like, absolutely, no, you're not. That's not happening. So, like, one is more picture based, one is more storytelling based, one is more, professional storytelling. You have to add value to that. So, your theme can be the exact same. Your underlying content can be the exact same, but how you're going to word it is a little different, right? So, you do need to combine your tools strategically and efficiently, right? Because we don't have all day to do this. So you guys already have this. You guys can add me. Everyone on the call has added me already, I believe, and then other people can pause it and do that as well. So I'm gonna pause. I'm gonna ask for questions, and if these are questions like for everybody, then I believe they're still being recorded. But if you want to get into like the nitty gritty of like your specific program, I guess we can crop that out or stop recording or whatever Catherine says we're doing. So.
I think if there are questions, general questions related to this, I agree, Kristen, that we can record those. But if we're thinking specifically about our own groups, our own pages, and we can narrow that. Okay. Then I say we cut it.
Oh, I'll